I'm Alex Weathersby, and this is my web series review for Sam and Pat Are Depressed. So Sam and Pat Are Depressed is an original TV-style web series about a pair of clinically depressed roommates who frequently discuss their experiences with therapy. Some things that I really enjoyed about this web series were the captions, especially since with this web series, its comedic sort of track is a lot of very fast-paced dialogue, similar to the style of Gilmore Girls. So having captions for that is really, really helpful, especially for people who maybe have sensory processing issues and need a little bit of time to really take in what was said, or because the characters are dialoguing so much that it often switches really quick. And I just really appreciate accessibility when it comes to web series. Expanding on that point, I also really liked the comedic approach. A lot of series that engage with depression and anxiety and mental illness in general, there's almost like two camps to it. I'm not saying that none of this is relatable, that none of these ways of presenting mental illness is bad or holding people back or anything like that. But I think that typically when mental illness and web series, at least the ones that I've seen, most of what it tends to fall into is either just a informed character trait that we never really see how it actually affects the character's life, or it's presented as something that the character really needs to heal from. It's shown as like this thing that's incredibly detrimental, and the web series will sort of follow the character through medication or therapy or whatever it is to sort of find more of a healing response than a coping response to it. And once again, while these portrayals aren't bad, it was really nice to see a web series that has anxiety and depression at the center of it that was still funny, and not in a sense of making fun of people with these issues, but showing how it's not always just like weeping on the bathroom floor. I think it really is on trend with this type of millennial humor where we're taking things about us that make us miserable or make life really, really hard, and we respond to it with this very sarcastic, nihilistic comedic response. So I really liked that they took something that we aren't really told is funny or we're told is a detriment, and they still found ways, while still acknowledging, yes, it's having a negative effect on their lives, they still found ways to make it funny instead of preachy or making it feel like your experiences have to look a certain way in order to be bad enough, if that makes sense. I also like the characters in this web series experience depression and anxiety. I didn't really realize the extent that it was affecting my life until pretty recently. And so I found elements of this web series where the characters are almost treating these things that clearly do have a huge effect on their lives as if they're not really that big of a deal. I personally found that very relatable, and how the joke is sort of how their way of coping is a funny way of coping. It's not saccharine or desperate or needy. It's funny, and it is what it is, but it's a relatable sort of funny, and I really related to both of the characters in many ways, just in terms of my own experiences and how I've chosen to cope with those things. I also really liked the comedic approach to roommate life. If you're doing a comedy-style web series, there's always tons you can draw on from roommate life. For example, in the episode 3, there's the cereal scene. I think things like that, where it's a very whole hog approach to comedy. I really appreciate Bree's involvement in that. Hi, Bree. I'm sorry it's taking me so long. Please forgive me. I've seen some of Bree's other projects. I've seen Brains, and I really enjoyed it. And I've also seen Ace and Anxious, which is a short film that is become very popular with the asexual members of Tumblr. So I just really appreciate how there's not this need of pulling back or making sure that the joke doesn't go too far, or that we have to make the characters very palatable and likable and respectable. So I really like the just confidence with the way the characters and the comedy in this web series are really just thrown into it. So that's something that I appreciate very much about this web series. I kind of just have a thing for purposeful continuity errors. That's just like amazingly funny to me. So I really appreciated, there's several episodes where that comes into play. There's a episode where there's a different food in the character's hand every time they cut away and cut back. That type of stuff just really is my thing, so I just really enjoyed those elements of the web series. Some things that I wish I had seen in this web series were, I really wanted to know how Sam and Pat became friends, like the history of their friendship. Did they meet in college? Did they know each other before they became roommates? Because they clearly have such a specific and realistic type of friendship where they are really cruel to each other sometimes, they nag on each other, they poke and jab at each other's mental illness, but it all comes from a place of care and loving, and this is sort of how they formed their bond. And that's a very realistic and specific type of friendship, and I guess I was just very curious to know how it came out, because I know it can be very hard to find people who you can trust with your mental illness and talk to them openly about therapy and the parts of you that are ugly and uncomfortable and that you're not happy about or proud of. It can be really hard to even get to a point where talking about that is okay, much less getting to a point where you can joke about it and say straight up to somebody that, but you are a narcissistic human, like you're a terrible person, and not have that be a blow to your self-esteem. So I also was very curious to know how they're affording therapy. I know Sam comments that it's paid for through her mom's insurance, but I guess I was just kind of curious how you get to that point of acknowledging you need therapy and finally going, and also just how they kind of paid for that apartment, since we don't really know much about their jobs. But I also felt that some of the episodes got very formulaic, which may have very well been the intention, but when you have a very consistent pattern of one person comes in to tell the other person an anecdote, the other person responds sarcastically, one of them suggests ordering food, the other agrees, I think I would have liked a little bit more of a shakeup. I do like that the entire series takes place in a single setting. I think that's very difficult to do, especially when you only have two characters on screen 99% of the time. But I do think the actual if this then that, the beginning, middle, end could have had a little bit more of a variety to it, just to keep it from getting a little predictable and mundane, especially since the series is so bingeable. I would watch this series if you like single location series like I just described. It's especially good for series that are in the present day where you don't really need a lot of world building, where characterization and the relationship between the characters is the real focus. If you like original series, obviously there's a wealth of literary-based web series out there. While I love them, I think they can be incredibly creative. I think they can do a lot of really interesting things. I also just really love seeing the original ideas people come up with. Series like Brains and Barbell and Gal Pals and Couple-ish, web series that are coming from people's own stories and their own experiences. So if you're really looking for an original series, this would be a really good web series for you. It's extremely relatable, especially if you're struggling with anxiety or depression or going to therapy and you have a lot of really interesting thoughts about that. I would probably skip this series if you're looking for more physical action, physical comedy, sort of like car chase, bank robber, I don't know. I don't even know if web series like that exist. If you're looking for something that's a lot more physical and a lot less dialogue, this isn't really the web series for you. If you're looking for web series that have many more characters, much more of an ensemble cast, then this isn't the web series for you. There's, like I said, 99% of the time, Sam and Pat are the only two characters who are sharing their discussions. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. If you have anything that you think that I was off base with, you think I forgot to mention, any other comments or questions or recommendations, please put them in the comments below, and I will see you next time.